Hello and welcome to the Floridian Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Today's kind of a special episode just because it's the first ever week update episode on a Monday. Now, I said I was going to do Monday and Thursday updates when the NFL season started. I missed out the last Thursday and I just thought to myself, why can't I just start this right now? Have Monday for reviewing the week past and then Thursday to help out with the week in the future, mostly the weekend from that Friday and Sunday schedule that comes up for those Floridian teams. So I'm going to do this right now. Of course, being Monday, it is Memorial Day as well, May 31st. So I want to say happy Memorial Day to all those in service right now, all those men and women putting their life on the line, their time and all that, making the sacrifices to protect his country, its beliefs, and his people. I want to thank you for that. Now, it was kind of a odd week for Floridian sports. A lot of, undisappointing results in soccer with really good stats for the club. And then in baseball, one team's hot, one team's not. And a lot of playoff results have come in from the NBA and as well from hockey as well. And I'm going to get into that at the end of this review. So I'm going to go right into it right now. This week update, going straight into baseball. Tampa Bay 35-20 in the record right now. And that's just the help from a 5-game win streak. 2 of them against the Royals, 2 of them against the Phillies, and 1 today against the New York Yankees. Now, all these games are all from the road. Of course, the Rays, they were behind Boston. Now they're number 1 in the AL East, American League East. And it looks like these past games on this win streak, they've been kicking. They've been killing it. The Phillies series, they swept that one, really easy 2-game series. We're talking about a 5-3 win and a 6-2 win after that. And this Yankees one, it's a 4-game series that they'll be playing in New York. They win the first one, 3-1. And 5 games, they could win these next couple of games against New York. New York obviously had a really horrible start to this year. Are they going to get in October form anytime soon? I highly doubt it. This Tampa Bay team is just riding the wave, as they would say in Tampa. Now, after that, it's a little bit of a, you go further south down to Miami Marlins. It's a little bit of a train wreck over there. Their record is 24-28. Past 10 games, they've been at least 500, so you can say they won 5-5. But these last 3 games, they lost 3 straight. And we're talking about, there's just no end to sight. They have a really terrible road schedule so far and really terrible road record so far. And they're going against the Blue Jays. Now, the thing about the Blue Jays, they could flip the mojo. They could flip up the train. They could flick up the M's to W's because, they're playing in Buffalo, New York. And as we know so far during this pandemic world in sports, the Canadian teams are playing other cities and they're not winning in other cities. The Toronto Raptors had a terrible year so far. It was more of a experiment if there was ever an expansion team in Tampa Bay, which we hope for. Now, why is there Canadian teams here in the United States playing instead of playing in Toronto or Montreal? Well, just because Canada has been kind of a, back and forth with a lot of politics and all that stuff and trying to make sure that they get the right things for the fans when they enter the arenas again. And I know I'm talking a little bit Canadian here, but, this is going to go right into what the Marlins situation is. Now, the Canadians and the Leafs, and I mean by Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, both of these teams had a playoff series going up in Canada right now. Game 6 happened in Montreal. They had a couple of fans in there. I believe only 500 fans. Really enough just to fill up the 500, seats in the 100 section, which isn't like crazy a lot. And I think Toronto's Game 7, and yes, a Game 7 for historical franchises like those two. Another 500. I think it's going to be just, health workers, which is good. You'll have to see anything of that. They do get that type of, recommendation of because they're already vaccinated. And, it's very much, we need to show that fans could go back into the arenas. It's just they need to be vaccinated. And healthcare workers, they've been vaccinated from what I'm aware of. And, they definitely are deserving of those seats, especially for a Game 7 in Toronto. But what happens after that series? You go against another Canadian team probably there, but let's say they go against an Eastern team in the playoffs. What do you do then? What do you do if they going against Tampa in the playoffs? What do you do then? So obviously, a lot of these teams, they're kind of breaking down on, it has to be, solved soon, this situation. So I expect Canadian teams to be back in their own stadiums soon. But in the meantime, they're all struggling here in the States. And the Blue Jays, they're playing in Buffalo, New York. So it's going to be a game where there's two away teams. No one's at home. There's no real advantage. So the Marlins, they could win these two games to have a 2-game series against the Blue Jays on the road. They could win these two, flip everything, and hopefully by next week when they come back home, they'll start winning more games. So you never know. Now, after baseball, we're going straight into the MLS and soccer. Now, as I said before, disappointing results, but really good stats if you are following these teams. And one of them is definitely Inter Miami. Inter Miami, a really, really disappointing game at home again. Again, another disappointing game at home. This is the 4th game at home. According to the notes, they lose 0-3 against DC United. DC United, they made goals in the 15th and the 22nd minute, and then in the 71st minute. And these were not, really workable goals. They didn't make them work for anything. A lot of these goals were just gimme balls, from the defenders, from Shaw, Fagal. I mean, they were just giving out terrible passes. And it's like, if you're McCarthy, you can't really do anything. I mean, those defenders, either is their jobs or is the goalie's job. But, those goaltenders, they just can't do anything in that type of situation. If your defenders are messing you up, I mean, you got to try to do better communication between the two because these are just terrible passes. Now, besides that, the one stat line I love to see about this game is the possession, though. Now, Miami had a possession of 57.4%, which is insane. It's insane just because Inter Miami never has more than 50% of possessions in any of the games so far this year. And the thing that even gets me more pissed off about this result compared to the possessions is that they only had 10 shots on goal. No, my apologies, not on goal, but 10 shots in general, compared to DC United's 13 shots. So you're trying to tell me a DC United team, which probably had like 43% of possession, you're trying to tell me they have more shots, more chances, more advantages than Inter Miami, even though this is the one game out of the entire year that they even controlled possession? Come on. A lot of mistakes in this game, from the giveaway balls from the defenders, which I talked about, a couple of seconds ago. Offsides. 4 offsides this game. Not a single offside call for DC United. And majority of the times, it was just Lewis Morgan, one of the midfielders for Inter Miami, just trying to get past the guys to get something going. You got to calm yourself down a little bit. If you're going to be called offsides every single time, why would you keep on doing it? So Inter Miami, they've been struggling a lot this year. Unfortunately, this was kind of a huge game standing-wise. We're talking about a DC United team that came into this game 9 points in on the standings in the East. Inter Miami 8 points on the standing in the East. Now it's 8-12, and I mean, you gotta try to move up the ranks. You gotta try to get back in that playoff position that you were last year, even though it was a play position. Still, you gotta be a little bit more aggressive, and you gotta be smart with your passes. This Inter Miami team has been giving out too many giveaways, too many give-me balls to the other teams, and it's just costing them games, and worse and foremost, home games. Now, after that, of course, Orlando played against New York Red Bull. That was a game on Saturday, just like the Inter Miami game, and so it was a really tough day, if you want to say it like that, a really tough day for the Floridian soccer fans out there. Orlando City, they put up somewhat of a fight, 1-2. They lose that game in New York. We're talking about Vander Walter. He gets an 84th minute goal, and that does help out a little bit. But before that first goal for Orlando City, the Red Bulls, they had a pretty damn dominant lead throughout the entire game. We're talking about a 35th minute goal from C. Clark, and then a 60th from C. Caceres Jr. I might have butchered that name. I'm sorry for any Red Bull fans, but then again, this is a Floridian podcast. Now, this is another game where the Floridian team had majority of the possession. This one is being 57.8% of possession, which is not really new for Orlando City. You usually get to see them a lot have those advantages, those possessions, and a lot of shots on goal. Now, this game was nothing like that. Nothing like that. They had 2 and 6 shots on goal according to the notes, and straight from the notes here, it just looks like a different game based on possession. We're talking about 7 and 14 for New York, shots on goal, that is. And we're talking about a 509 passes compared to 351 passes. Now, 509 passes from Orlando City compared to the New York Red Bulls, 351 passes. I mean, how do you not even get more than 2 shots on goal, let alone more than 6 shots? How are you passing the ball? Are you passing it right there with the goaltender, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? Move the ball up. They didn't move the ball up at all. Let alone, I thought to myself, man, is Orlando serious? They're wasting more time when they were down 0-2 majority of the game. It's ridiculous. I mean, of course, the one highlight you could make out of the 509 passes that they had, according to the notes here, 80.8% pass accuracy for Orlando City. So I guess you can cheer for that. But then again, that's 0 points. You give the Red Bulls 3, and that's another team in the East just elevating themselves above these Floridian teams. So it was a really tough day, tough Saturday for these Floridian soccer teams. Now, besides that, we have to talk a little bit about the playoffs that have been going on. The Miami Heat, unfortunately, they got swept by the Milwaukee Bucks. They didn't win any of the games they had at home. Game 3, unfortunately, came out to be 113-84. A real blowout. Game 4, much more closer. They actually had a lead at the half, and then they just stunk in the third quarter. They couldn't play any real defense. Milwaukee's offense was waking up in that second half. They lose that one 120-103. However, I thought that game was a little bit more closer than what the final score made it to be. And for that series specifically, just like the other playoffs episodes I had for hockey as well as for this Miami Heat series, I'm going to make a recap episode for Game 3 and Game 4 and a recap overall of the series in that episode. And that'll be coming in tomorrow, Tuesday, June 1st. Now, we have to talk about hockey here. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they win the Floridian Panthers. They win the Florida Panthers. 6 games, 4-0 win in Game 6 in Tampa Bay. They move on to the next round, and they are the winners of the Sunshine State battle. Of course, that was a really tough series, as we all know, aggressive, both teams really getting under each other's skin in the first 3 games. But it was a hell of a series. I mean, as I've been saying in the other episodes of this series and reviews, this is a game every single night. When you see Florida and Tampa, that game is going to be national televised. That game is going to be aggressive. That game is going to be real hockey. That game is going to be fast-paced, entertaining to watch, even if you don't even watch hockey, don't even know what a stick is and a puck. So it was definitely a series, for the ages. First time ever in the state's history that both of these hockey teams go against each other in the playoffs. So, I'm as a Floridian, I'm happy. You got to be happy for the result. Now, that's in the past. Let's move on with the Tampa Bay Lightning in the second round. They're going against the Carolina Hurricanes. They won out in Game 6 against the Nashville Predators as well. So 2 teams out of Game 6s. Tampa Bay, unfortunately, they don't have home ice, but it didn't stop them in the Panthers series, and it didn't stop them here against Carolina. Game 1 actually happened on the Sunday, and it was a shocker for a lot of people. Tampa Bay wins that one 2-1. So Tampa Bay, the Floridian team, ahead in the series so far. Now, unfortunately, we don't really have a real schedule for the playoff series themselves besides a couple of times. I know that Game 2 is going to be played tomorrow. Now that's going to be at 7:30 in Carolina. Game 3, another 7:30 game. Probably a day after that, I can only assume. It's to be dated, as well as the Game 4 is to be dated as well. We just know that one's going to be at 7:30, another 7:30 game, and then a 4 o'clock game for that Game 4, which will be in Tampa. Now, what do I make of this series? I think that, Tampa Bay, just coming off the first win, they just might win this in 5 games. I can't imagine them win Game 2, but they're not losing a game in Tampa. It's a guarantee they're not losing a game in Tampa. Tampa Bay, so far, they only have one loss in its entire playoffs in Tampa. And that game, as we all saw, was a miracle on ice where the Panthers came back down 3 goals to win that one in Game 3. So I expect Tampa Bay to make quick work of this Carolina team, and we'll just have to see on dates. Hopefully I can, when the Game 2 review comes after for this playoff series, hopefully we have some more information and more dates to relay back to you. So again, I want to thank you for joining in on me for this week update. Of course, I'll be making that episode tomorrow to recap the Miami Heat's playoff journey and what the round 1 sweep meant and how they got there, and what to see for the off season. As Cole will say it, the off season will be really exciting. So I want to thank you, and I hope you have a good night and a happy Memorial Day.